basement. Level vibes with another one. Straight up, blackness aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and pon the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see.
Source. Okay, well, maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you. Or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jerome?
So my relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my...
This is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Pressure boss pipe. Pressure boss pipe, boy. Umaninja Guyana de underwater. Oh, the wrong. Sorry. Umaninja Guyana de under pressure. Walk. Bangamere is $400 pong. Trout $400 pong. Oh, you go buy that sell back by. I just come and tell about bisa buy me little fish and mix with me little crab and sell. Thing that just raise, thing just double the price, just double. Oh, partner. But you could.
Making the short video for send to you and the viewers and listeners. All know we punishing in Guyana. Punishing. Rice gone up, sugar gone up, flour gone up, cost of living just gone up, gas gone up from 3,400 to 3,800. Real hungry days under this installed PPP government. Real hungry days we gone back to. Guyanese? Oh! Real hungry days. Real hungry days.
Mr. Watts, he's armed himself shots. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
Guyana really nice. Guyana. It's a nice place.
All right, welcome to Straight Up. My name is Mark Benchap. We're going to rock and roll for just about an hour and we'll call it a day. So share the link and let folks know that we are on. We're actually live. We're bringing you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's what we do right here on 107.1 FM. Some will like it. Well, matter of fact, the majority are going to like what we have to say. And they're just a few. We know who those few are. It doesn't really bother us because what I do know is that the truth bothers them. And that is why they have to call press conferences. They have to do all manner of things because they are basically extremely concerned about the truth being told. And you can only find the truth on these platforms where we just expose all of the atrocities and the injustices meted out, especially towards African Guyanese and also our Indian brothers and sisters and indigenous brothers and sisters and others who do not support the illegal PPP regime. And so whenever we do that and we speak the truth, they tend to want to muzzle us. They find ways to muzzle us, whether through press conference, wanted bulletins that they actually coerce the political operatives in the Guyana police force to issue press wanted bulletins and so forth. And whilst we're at that, people are rejoicing over their certificates. That's okay. People can achieve things wherever they achieve it. They can get their masters, they can get their bachelors, they can get whatever it is, whether from wherever, wherever, IFLAT University. And I've noticed some people are trying to just legitimize this whole phantom aspect of the IFLAT University, and to say that IFLAT is a big village, it's a big university. We understand the entire Guyana is a big university, but when you have someone who sits there in the office of the president, albeit through illegal means, and cannot produce where he has graduated from with regards to his either his first or his second degree, that becomes questionable in its highest form. Good evening to all of you, and good to see some new faces as well. Hope you do like what you see in terms of, and we do hope that you appreciate what you hear. And what you hear is the other side of the coin that the regime doesn't want you to hear. Those of you who are in the New York area and will be somewhere in the Manhattan side of the city, well, Manhattan is the city, in front of the Guyana consulate at just about 10 o'clock tomorrow. You can go out there, lots of things happening in Guyana, and we want to be able to stand in front of the Guyana consulate and later on in front of the Guyana embassy, and this can stretch all the way to Canada and to the UK and other parts of the world where Guyanese are that can stand up and expose to the world what's happening in Guyana. Things are becoming more and more dangerous every single day. And so tomorrow, 10 o'clock, right in front, where is it? 38th Street. It's 308 West 38th Street, New York. That's in Manhattan. And we want to ensure that when you arrive there, just if you can walk with a placard, write something on it: illegal regime, corruption, apartheid PPP regime. We want these folks at the Guyana consulate to know, and especially their neighbors to know, how corrupt the government, or the so-called government of Guyana, is, and how racist the government is, and the fact that they are deliberately targeting mainly persons of African descent as a result of their ethnicity. And they're targeting other Guyanese who do not support them. Thank you, Brenda. It is between 8th and 9th Avenue. And let me say this: people do have, they jump in their cars or wherever, they can Google it, the Google map, they know exactly where to go. But thank you so much, Brenda. And we are looking forward to seeing a sizable amount, whether it's 4, 5, or 6. It's still a large crowd. 4, 5, and 6 is still a large crowd, right? And so, yes. And so we are going to intensify, in terms of these protests, folks, our constitutional rights. And no one can infringe on that. No one. No one is going to throw a cast net where we reside to say that we are violating any laws in Guyana, if you know what I mean, because they're quick in doing that. We're not bothered about them. Seriously, gone through tougher stuff than that. We're not bothered about these Looney Tune guys out in Guyana, Jagdeo and Irfaan and all these guys, because what they're attempting to say is they're the only ones who can speak out. They're the only ones who can threaten people. They're the only ones who can say fight. They're the only ones who can say protest. They're the only ones who can say fight back, and all these manner of things. And people must just put their hands up, surrender, and say, okay, you guys, PPP, Irfaan Ali, you guys are the only ones who have that God-given right to speak your mind. You guys are the only ones who got that God-given right to exercise your constitutional rights of freedom of speech and protest and these sort of things. And no one else can. Absolutely no one else can. When someone else does that, then it becomes problematic. Anyways, we're not bothered about that, Jagdeo, and you should know that by now, really. I'm not bothered about that, but let's move on. What else is happening in the country that we can speak of, other than the fact British Airways is now in Guyana, flying in Guyana? What else is happening? Well, you guys already know the wanted bulletin out for Takuma Ogunzi, and the WPA held a press conference. We are not certain what's going to happen, but my prediction is more likely Mr. Ogunzi may possibly just be waiting at his home with his lawyer. Who knows? But it's a dangerous thing, though, for any regime to deliberately put wanted bulletins out for folks. And I should know about that. I've got several of those already. It's like water and ducks back for me. But the reason why corrupt governments put wanted bulletins out is they're creating a scene in the event that you may probably get cornered. Then they are going to empty their guns, empty the barrels of that gun, empty out all of their bullets on you, and then claim that you did something. You reach for a weapon, they thought it was a weapon, or they may plant a weapon on you. That is how corrupt governments operate. And let's not put that past these hooligans in office. Let's be careful, and let us pray for our brother Takuma Ogunzi, and that all is well. What else is happening? You heard about the Lincoln Lewis situation as well, and they are after Lincoln Lewis and his land, his family land. These folks are so blatant. Every day you turn, there's always some sort of corruption. There's always some sort of blatant targeting of mainly persons of African descent. We're seeing it every day, and people are asking the question, how much longer should we sit down and allow this sort of brutality, allow this sort of injustices towards a group of people, and just accept it? All right, so let us see what we can discuss. We will have maybe one or two folks later on with us, but let's see what's happening. I think we should have had some business folks, not on as guests, but to show to you guys what the PPP regime is doing again with regards to racism. That all of the businesses, every single one or majority of the businesses and awards and all manner of things they have, it's going towards one, mainly 99.9%, one particular ethnic group. And we have 3 local fabricators producing fixtures for, as they quote, One Guyana FPSO. And all of those businessmen are of East Indian extraction, all of them. And this is the sort of blatant racism that we're seeing in the country, where all these contracts are being awarded to their friends and cronies. And then the African Guyanese folks shouldn't have a voice to speak out about these blatant injustices. We're not going to stay quiet. Guyanese are not going to stay quiet. So Jagdeo and Irfaan can jump as like a kangaroo wherever they want to jump, all over the place. It doesn't bother us. Jagdeo, I know you're watching. It doesn't bother us at all. And I'm putting a smile on my face, not necessarily that I do want to smile, but Jagdeo, you should know why I'm smiling. Because it comes a point in time when enough is enough. And this time, definitely, Jagdeo, it's not a long time. You know that song, This Time a Long Time? People are not going to sit down quietly and be beaten. People are not going to be sit down and be subjected to the sort of oppressive policies and racist policies from the regime. It's not going to happen. All right, said. We're seeing the Kunumunus are coming out, and all they can do, they're creating fake pages. They can curse, and see that's why they cannot, and they're not going to win this battle, because they do not know how to communicate. It's bare F and S and who did. It's like they're, something is definitely wrong. Something is definitely wrong. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day, very, very busy day indeed. Before we get to our guest, Attorney Shellon Washington is with us this evening. Let me see what this here says. Jagdeo says, and we can bring Attorney Shellon Washington on. She is going to be on with us for a few minutes. And I do promise you guys for a few minutes indeed. And so this says here, Jagdeo says, threat against U.S. interest in Guyana, a serious matter. Pledges government support. Interesting. Good evening, Ms. Washington. How are you?
Hi, good evening, Mark. I am doing great, and as always, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yep, pleasure to see you too. And I'll get back, there's a threat, and embassies, U.S. embassies around the world, they're high alert, so to speak, and they got to be extra careful, which is ought to be the case. And we commend those security guys in the U.S. embassies for ensuring the safety of Americans and others. But Jagdeo is now saying, and I quote again, that according to this report, Jagdeo says, threat against U.S. interest in Guyana, a serious matter, pledges government support. Or pledges government support, something along the line. But I just want to walk back. We're getting a little echo coming from your end, Ms. Washington. But I just want to remind folks of a few things. And this is what he's saying here. Jagdeo says, threat against U.S. interest in Guyana is serious matter, pledges government support. All right, so he's coming out now and he's saying, pledges government support. We're not hearing from Irfaan at all on certain matters, not at all. But not so long ago, I'm not sure if you recall this, This guy, Brent Hart, was the U.S. ambassador, and this was a celebration, I believe, independence celebration, U.S. independence celebration. And this event was at the U.S. ambassador's residence in Georgetown. Priya Manikchan was then the Minister of Education, as she is now occupying that seat, albeit illegally. And so she did a toast in honor of American independence, and I believe that was her last time on American soil, so to speak, because properties belonging to the American embassy there is actually American soil. The last time she was ever invited at that ambassador's residence or any other. And so she cussed out the American ambassador, saying that he should shut up. And this was Brent Hart. In fact, she was telling him to shut up and mind his own goddamn business, so to speak, and stay out of the internal affairs of Guyana. And Jagdeo and all of them, they were cursing this guy out. I don't know if it's because his wife happens to be colored. When I say colored, a black woman, and they seem to have this hate towards black folks. But this guy, an honorable guy, a respectable guy who was fighting for real democracy in Guyana. And so she cursed him out. Priya Manikchan did that. Basically told him to mind his own goddamn business and let the U.S. stay out of Guyana's internal affairs. All because they weren't holding local government elections. And a lot of us were calling for a few of us until others got on the bandwagon, but totally uncalled for and unnecessary. They cursed this guy out. But this is the same Jagdeo now is saying that he pledges government support. Meanwhile, back then he was very quiet. He was very anti-U.S. He was just full of himself. And apart from that, not so long ago, the very Jagdeo, this ambassador, John Jones, this U.S. ambassador, had to cut his time short as a result of the racist policies by Jagdeo and the PPP. This guy, Ambassador John Jones, had to cut his stay short in Guyana as a result of his ethnicity, and they just didn't want to cooperate as much with him because he was exposing them in terms of the PPP. And I suppose he was exposing them and their criminality, linkage to drug lords and these things. Jagdeo, again, was quiet. A lot of those things. He wasn't concerned about the threats. Now, the other thing is this guy happens to be another, he was then U.S. Ambassador, Roland Bullen, Grenadian heritage, but he was the U.S. Ambassador to Guyana. And he went through hell under Jagdeo's racist regime. Never got the cooperation at the U.S. Embassy, put the U.S. Embassy in a threat, exposed the U.S. Embassy, the very Jagdeo. And again, there's a reason why I'm reminding folks or letting folks know who may not have probably heard about this event. But this is Ambassador Roland Bullen, and he was actually chased out of Guyana under Jagdeo's regime, and Jagdeo did absolutely nothing. He was totally anti-U.S. He was making the lives of our U.S. ambassadors there and workers at the embassy, he was basically making them live in fear. And he said nothing. He was enjoying it, but suddenly he finds it appropriate to issue a statement. And let's get back to Ambassador Roland Bullen, who has a lot of things that he can say about Guyana during that time. During that time, we didn't hear about Jagdeo when this here, a threat. We'll move away from that for a quick second, but we'll get to this here. That very ambassador, Roland Bullen, in 2006, this is the headline, and this is not propaganda. This is the headline in Stabroek News, and it says here, U.S. ambassador feared Khan, that was Roger Khan and his Phantom Squad then, very close to Jagdeo and the PPP regime then. And this is the headline in Stabroek News. U.S. ambassador feared Khan attack, requested more protection. A U.S. ambassador is requesting more protection because back then, Jagdeo, the very Jagdeo and the PPP refused to ensure that the ambassador was properly protected. And so Ambassador Bullen had to request more protection. It says here, former U.S. Ambassador Roland Bullen in 2006 strongly believed that his life was under threat by drug lord or drug kingpin Roger Kahn, and the embassy wrote to Washington for further security assistance after one of Kahn's bodyguard was seen opposite a building where the ambassador was having a meeting. All of these things and more. And guess what? Jagdeo was quiet. Jagdeo had nothing to say. Jagdeo was enjoying the moment because those individuals were closely linked to Jagdeo, just as we're seeing now questionable characters, money launderers, gold smugglers, and individuals who are now wanted by the U.S. or U.S. law enforcement are linked to Jagdeo and the PPP. Now let's move on before I head over to our attorney. Just bring attention. This here is another incident where Jagdeo was very quiet. 2014. And sorry, guys, that I'm walking you through exactly what Jagdeo did or what he didn't do. And now he is suddenly pretending that he's so concerned about the safety of those at the U.S. Embassy, which is good. We should all be concerned about the safety of everyone, including those at the U.S. Embassy as well. But back then, Jagdeo wasn't concerned about that at all. Look at this. U.S. Embassy warns of possible Guyana threat, 2014, under Jagdeo's presidency. Jagdeo did absolutely nothing. He knew why. There were organizations, there were religious groups. I don't want to call some of those religious organizations that probably are still under the radar of U.S. law enforcement agencies and other law enforcement agencies as being part and parcel of terrorist organization, either through funding or receiving fundings. And so that's probably still a lot of investigations going on. But Jagdeo was very quiet then. And then we heard about this guy. And Jagdeo said nothing again, but this is in the Kaichor News, 2010, Guyanese is new head of Al-Qaeda. Guyanese is new head of Al-Qaeda. The FBI has been searching for Shukra Juma since 2003. He is thought to be the only Al-Qaeda leader to have once held permanent U.S. residence. Now, this guy was, according to information, issued with a Guyanese passport. It is alleged that this guy was hiding in Guyana and he was shielded by some organizations, and that religious organization is close to the PPP, it is close to Jagdeo, it is close to Irfaan, and possibly close to some other people, maybe in the DPP chambers or wherever else. And so this guy, the FBI supposedly tracked him and believe, mind you, that he was once in Guyana. And now I'm not sure that if it is as a result of that, this guy, Clement Rohi, who now sits there as one of the commissioners at one of those commissioners at Guyana Elections Commission. This guy, Clement Rohi, during that time has had his visa revoked. His U.S. visa was revoked. Allegedly, I don't know, but we're hearing that it had to do allegedly with the fact that this guy was issued with a Guyana passport. And Clement Rohi was allegedly linked to this. Now, I don't know, but I'm saying that when Rohi had his visas revoked, he said he was going to tell members of the public. It has been years since, and he hasn't mentioned a word about that. Whether it was linked to terrorism, whether it was linked to this guy, Al-Shukri Juma, or not, Rohi remains quiet. But he is writing letters in the newspaper talking a bunch of baloney, but he hasn't answered this question as yet as to why his U.S. visa back then was actually revoked. I say all of this to say that Jagdeo has no moral authority to talk about safety of anyone. He has endangered that country. He has endangered the U.S. Embassy for all those years. And with his linkage to questionable characters, he loves to talk about criminals and so forth. And if you look who this guy is linked to, you'd be surprised, or maybe not surprised at all. So the hypocrisy continues. Bharat Jagdeo. Outside of that, good evening and welcome to Straight Up. Having said what I've said there, you're the lawyer, I'm not. Are you seeing some sort of hypocrisy? I know you've been very quiet listening. Your take, ma'am.
Well, Mark, I think you were getting a feedback. So is that still happening?
No feedback at all.
Okay, perfect. I think you could see a lot of hypocrisy there, because I'm not sure what type of threat could the president of Guyana be concerned with regarding U.S. interests, other than that threat coming directly from the Guyana government administration. I'm not sure how a private citizen could just be a threat to U.S. interests in Guyana when the real threat, as we know, can only come from the Guyanese government. And we have seen that those who are in authority are in cahoots with those who might be a threat to U.S. officials, as you rightfully pointed out, the incident in 2014, written by the Kaichor News. I don't think Bharat is not a president, but I don't think Bharat Jagdeo has the ability to come up and make any remarks or any comments regarding U.S. interests, or there being any possibility of a threat in Guyana against the U.S. government, other than those related to drugs and the things that the FBI has been trying for many years to eliminate.
Yeah, definitely eliminated, and I'm sure that they have evidence. I noticed Jagdeo used a legal term, and you will be familiar with that, preponderance of evidence. Preponderance of evidence. I would use that to suggest that maybe law enforcement agencies in the U.S. and maybe in Canada and other places have, based on a preponderance of evidence, reasons to believe that Jagdeo is in fact, quote unquote, a criminal. He loves to call.
I would think, Mark, at this point, they have more than a preponderance, because the preponderance of evidence is used to satisfy a civil standard, and beyond reasonable doubt is used to satisfy a criminal standard. And the things that has been going on in Guyana for many, many years, I think the U.S. government, I think the FBI actually have sufficient evidence, if they wanted to, beyond a reasonable doubt at this point, to move in and take actions against those who they are aware of is involved in criminal activities in Guyana.
And it's just a matter of time for many folks who remember the then president of Panama, Noriega. Noriega thought he was so powerful, and Noriega thought he was untouchable, and all these manner of things, but yet the U.S. were able to go in and snatch Noriega and tried him. It doesn't mean that Jagdeo, living in Guyana, basically a small fry Jagdeo, believes that cannot be a possibility of him being snatched and one day put in orange suit and indicted one day in orange suit. It can very well happen. You're hearing that there are reports that Jagdeo also is under investigations for having a bank account maybe somewhere in China under a different name. He has addressed that particular issue before, but he brushed it aside as though, it's innocuous, and no, they checked and there's really nothing. That's not true. They never said that there isn't anything. They might still be checking, and there might still be that bank account in China, who knows, with hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think Jagdeo knows that the folks, whoever they are onto something. You're about to say something now.
Money laundering. If it's true, and he has an account in China somewhere, and there's billions of dollars in there, there's a possibility that those are the proceeds of some sort of illegal activity. So that would be considered money laundering, and he can be prosecuted possibly if there's sufficient evidence to establish such. I wouldn't rule anything out, because why would he have an account in China under suspicious circumstances, not even under his own name. So
Absolutely. And that's the allegations, mind you. Again, allegations. He has denied it. And of course, he's not going to say, yes, it's true. But I think he should know some folks are probably on to him. There's a set of other money launderers in Guyana that Jagdeo is associated with. We see them in the private sector commission and so forth and so on. But let me ask you this as an attorney. You have over the past couple of days heard the rhetoric and the lies, my opinion, the lies coming out of the mouth of Jagdeo and Irfaan, the lies. But for some strange reason, or maybe not strange, Jagdeo seems to be staying away from this particular issue. And from a legal standpoint, I want to get your opinion on it. Just give us 30 seconds and let us play this tape.
Source. Maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you. Or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jerome?
Su.
So we've been hearing, and that's an interview from Vice News. Well, not specifically that one, but an interview came out from Vice News about corruption in Guyana, where Su has made an allegation that he has paid Jagdeo a bribe, and he was basically there to bring businesses to Jagdeo, and he got a kickback. In fact, I did a brief interview with Su, and this is what Su had to say as it pertains to renting a property from Jagdeo and paying $1.2 million per month. Jagdeo's property is right in this compound, and obliquely opposite his property is where Su was renting from Jagdeo for $1.2 million. Not allegations, something that Jagdeo has admitted to. Well, he didn't admit to the amount, but Su has admitted to the amount. Now, at a press conference, Jagdeo said that he rented this property, and you do landlord-tenant stuff. You do all manner of stuff as it relates to property and so forth, I assume. And Jagdeo has said publicly that when he rented the property to Su, that he, Jagdeo, doesn't know where Su gets his money from. Is that a red flag for you as an attorney?
Mark, I would assume that if anyone, at least, I can't say for Guyana for sure, because there's a lot of things that unconventional things that happens in Guyana that, from me, my perspective, living in a metropolitan country, it would be my views of things would be more to get things in a more transparent light. And there's a lot of things that happens in Guyana when you compare it with what happens here. It's so different from what we're used to, because in this country, if we're going to rent to a tenant, one of the things we usually do is like do a background check, because we need to make sure that the tenant, number one, is not going to be carrying out any illegal activity on the premises, and number two, we want to make sure that the tenant is credit worthy to be able to meet the monthly obligation on the rent. And for a landlord to come and say, well, I don't know where he gets his money from, I think that's a little bit shady, because he must have known at the time he rented to that tenant that, you know, where the tenant is working or what type of income the tenant has. It had to have been disclosed. He had to have known that the tenant would be able to pay the 1.5 million mark or 2.5, whatever it is. He would have.
Even that, here it is, Miss Washington. And that is why we like your view, so that you can break it down from a legal standpoint. Jagdeo's house is the big one. And opposite that are two other houses, I believe, the one obliquely opposite, that is where Jagdeo rents to Su, or rented to Su. Now, if you're going to have, as you've said, someone coming there as I'm coming to you as a tenant, you're the president of Guyana, and I want to rent a property right next door to yours, your property. From a security standpoint, wouldn't you want to know who I am really and where I'm getting my money from? For you as head of state, supposedly, or not some VP or whatever he is, said that, look, I rented this man my property, but I don't know where he gets his money from. Come on.
Mark, that can't be possible because, like you rightfully pointed out, they're right next to each other. I'm pretty sure if he was aware that let's say he was like the exterminator, like he exterminated people, I'm pretty sure Jagdeo would have wanted to know who he's renting to, especially the person who's going to be in such close proximity to him. He must have known the facts related to that tenant would have some point came up. He would have screened the tenant. It's just not possible that he would just take a tenant and say, here, take possession of my property. I don't know you. I don't know whether or not you'll be able to pay my the rent, meet your obligation. Although this is a really expensive property, here, go ahead and just occupy it. That doesn't fit the profile of what a landlord would typically do. You want to know who you're renting to. You want to make sure that your tenant is going to be paying, and you want to make sure where the money is coming from. So Jagdeo would have made sure that his tenant was getting money from somewhere. Even here, we check bank accounts, we request bank records just to verify that the tenant will meet their monthly obligations. And I think there would have been some sort of screening. Jagdeo ought to have known that tenant, to trust him, to bring him into such close proximity to his own home. He wouldn't just take any random person. So I wouldn't believe that.
And on top of that, Sue was able to walk into Jagdeo's house, took the reporters them there into Jagdeo's house, right there into Jagdeo's house. This is a guy that, according to Jagdeo, he doesn't know how he gets his money or where he makes his money. Something is definitely not right.
And this is why I'm saying there must have been some sort of trust there, that he would take somebody and put them in such close proximity, and not only just put them in close proximity, but the guy had access to Jagdeo's house. He was going in and out, so there must have been some sort of established relationship between the two parties. So a lot of times when people will hear allegations, a lot of times, even though the allegations might not be 100% truthful, there is going to be some degree of truthfulness in those allegations. And if we're hearing any allegations about Jagdeo getting himself involved in any form of corruption with this person, they have to be true. And then if the allegation is coming directly from the person, from the tenant, from his former tenant, then there must be some sort of credence to that sort of allegation. It just can't be just 100% fabricated. I wouldn't believe that. Even if it's not 100% truthful, there is truth to those allegations.
Are you surprised, though, Miss Washington, that the police seem to be more interested in going after political opponents? And to this day, not a word about arresting Jagdeo, questioning Jagdeo about that high level of corruption, massive corruption, probably worth billions of Guyana dollars. Jagdeo said that he wants to be investigated. He doesn't mind. And then we haven't heard anything about that afterwards. Then Irfaan Ali said basically the same thing, that they are going to investigate it. It's approaching a year or over a year and nothing at all. Bluffs, 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 right? But yet Jagdeo and Irfaan are so concerned about other matters, but they're ignoring this large-scale corruption leveled against Jagdeo for obvious reasons.
And Mark, we kind of like touched on that as it regards to the police. And it's agreed and it's understood by all Guyanese, I think, at this point, that the police works for the Guyana government. The police doesn't work for the people. The police are not independent, and they're not carrying out investigation in a transparent manner. We understand that the government uses the police force as a tool against the population versus to protect. The oath that the police force takes is that they will protect, they will go and perform their duty in a manner that is in the best interest of the public. And we know that that doesn't happen. What the police actually do is work for the government. So if the government is corruption and the police force believe that's their boss, and it's the whole system. Because first of all, if the commissioner of police is being appointed and it's a political appointment and certain position in the police force is appointed, then you got to expect corruption. And we as the people of Guyana, that's why when Granger was there, they should have done revamp legislation, change a lot of things, make certain jobs electable versus being a political appointment. Because once it's a political appointment, we're in a lot of trouble in Guyana. And this is why the police does not investigate government officials. They turn a blind eye. If the government is stealing, the government is corrupt, the government is engaging in money laundering, the government is killing people, execution style, the police will turn a blind eye because they are carrying out the orders of the Guyana government. They are not performing any duty to protect the public. They're not serving for the protection of anybody except the Guyanese government. That's all they're about. So when we realize that we're in a system that was built to cause corruption, we know that there's no way around that. There's no checks and balances to bring the government into alignment to do what is right. The government is going to continue to engage in fraud, in corruption, in dishonesty, in illegal activities, because there's nobody there to put them in check. Who's going to stop them? Is the commissioner of police going to stop them? The commissioner of police can't do anything. He's a political appointee. So his duty is honesty and his loyalty is to the Guyana government, whoever is in office at that particular time. So until we change the system to make a lot of positions electable and not appointed by some sort of political leader, we will continue to see widespread corruption. And it's going to come from the head and trickle down. And we're going to continue to see situations like what is happening to Mr. Lewis, where the government themselves is using the police force to oppress the masses. We will continue to see this sort of behavior until we do legislative changes, revamp the law to make it where this type of corruption could be eliminated through election. That's the system we use in New York. Judges are elected, certain position, the DA is elected, and you know, Mark, it's not just the police, but it's the Attorney General's office. When you have the DPP is supposed to determine whether or not they should lay charges. The police investigate, and then the DPP determine whether or not charges should be laid. And you can't expect that coming from the DPP. DPP is politically appointed. They are PPP.
It seems to be very corrupt at the high level, very corrupt. And well, in New York City, the police commissioner is actually appointed by the mayor. I'm not sure if they're going to change that, but also even when the mayor appoints a commissioner of police, there's still checks and balances that the mayor cannot do as he or she likes at all, not because it's appointed. In Guyana,
the DA is elected. The DA is elected. So the DA, there's no possibility of the DA getting involved in any sort of illegal activity.
What we see there in Guyana, you are 101% correct. And now let me show, Jagdeo loves to talk about criminal and call people, he loves to call people criminal and all these manner of things. I don't know if this guy should just look into the mirror all the time whenever he speaks. But let's take a look at this guy. Let me just remind individuals who this guy is. That those are some guns, AK-47, whatever else, 38, whatever, 9, whatever else he has there. Right, some gunmen out there would know the guns that they see, but this guy was attached to a killing squad, and he was connected to a sitting minister of the government, Home Affairs Minister Ronald Gadrach, who has had his U.S. visas revoked because of his connection to criminal gangs, to death squad. This guy was supposedly one of the killers for the government then, when Jagdeo was the president. And this guy's name is Mark Kazurki. Mark Kazurki. He operated at a wine bar somewhere there in Georgetown, not far from Camp Street's prison. He was actually charged with murder along with a guy named Sean Hines and Ashton King. They were all charged. After this guy was charged, two of them ended up in prison, Sean Hines and Ashton King. But this guy fainted, this big, bad gunman, supposedly out there killing people for Jagdeo's government. As it was established, he was connected to a sitting minister of Home Affairs. And he fainted after he heard that he was remanded to prison. He fainted, he ended up in the hospital, and he died under questionable circumstances. Again, I repeat, he died under questionable circumstances. All of these guys connected to the PPP, whether they're connected to Jagdeo or not directly, whether Jagdeo ordered killings of individuals, because hundreds of people died under Jagdeo's regime. We don't know whether Jagdeo ordered any of those killings directly. It is Jagdeo who has to say that. But also under Jagdeo's presidency, Ronald Waddell was assassinated. Scores of other folks were murdered. But this guy, a killer who's now dead, died under questionable circumstances at the Georgetown Public Hospital when Leslie Ramsamy was the Minister of Health. That's another story I can talk about another time. But this guy is seen here. He is the guy if you're facing the screen. Of course, he's the second from the left with that white T-shirt like on. He's the second from the left with others here at State House with Bharat Jagdeo. Bharat Jagdeo is always in the habit of describing people as criminals, as he did to Rickford Burke and others, as criminals. But here is the evidence. And Jagdeo has a history of associating with persons of questionable character. We see what he's in photograph there with a known killer. From a legal standpoint, you think these things could ever happen in the United States of America, Miss Washington?
You know, Mark, is generally, if you're in certain political office, it's expected of you to act in a certain way, to associate yourself with the right people. As we could see, remember the story with Bill Clinton being associated with someone who was accused of child pornography, and that became an issue. So in this country, if you're a public figure, you're expected to act a certain way. You're expected to portray yourself in a particular light. And if it is found that you're associating yourself with people who are involved in criminal activities, then that is cause for questioning. And a lot of times those political leaders are investigated. But as I said before, we don't investigate anybody in Guyana. Once you're in power, you're in control. So the police doesn't work against you. The police only works with you or for you, not against those in political office or in political leadership in Guyana.
And we have been hearing in terms of even after the assassination of not Courtney Crummy-Wing, that's another assassination under the PPP. That was a young man who was protesting, a former army officer, was protesting in front of Anil Nandalal's office when Anil was the Attorney General prior to them being ousted from office. And so not so long after, Courtney Crummy-Wing was brutally murdered, assassinated under the PPP regime. But when Ronald Waddell was assassinated, I believe he had 18 bullets or 21 bullets or something like that. There were members of the Guyana Police Force who were accused of being part of that killing. Former members of the Guyana Police Force accused of being part of that killing, because they were alleged to have been part of a phantom squad, a killing squad. And on the night when Waddell was killed, we are told that Jagdeo took a toast to that. We are told it's up to Jagdeo to decide on whether that is true or not, but we don't expect him to say, yes, it was true. But we were told that they rejoiced at the assassination of Ronald Waddell. To this day, no one was ever brought to justice And you can't tell me that no one in the Guyana police force knows nothing about that murder, that assassination of Ronald Waddle because he was an opponent of the PPP regime. And so Jagdeo has no moral authority to speak of criminality. He has no moral authority to speak of political violence, crimes. It all happened under his regime. Ms. Washington, there's some other stuff that we wish to speak of. Wanted bulletin for another political activist, this time a member of the WPA, Mr. Takuma Ogunze, who basically said, sorry, go ahead.
Mark,
Yeah, go ahead.
before we get into that, I don't want to be able to just leave the show abruptly, but I have to get off. I have to get off here and come back and answer that question for you.
No problem. Yeah.
So I'll be right back to answer the questions.
No problem.
All right.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Washington. I did promise her 5 minutes, and gosh, sometimes I'm a little ashamed of myself. I say to my guests, as I said to Lincoln and others last night, 5 minutes, and it's oftentimes an hour. Keith Beresford, I see you here. The Bacchus brothers, Shafiq and George Bacchus, were murdered. In fact, George Bacchus went into the PNC headquarters to give information. In fact, he gave information to the U.S. Embassy as well, and he outlined almost every single thing. So it is not to say that people don't have the evidence. It is not to say that they're not aware of certain PPP so-called officials now who are parroting themselves about democracy and about decency and so forth, when the wounds are still fresh. And I repeat, the wounds are still fresh. And so it pains a lot of people, especially to see Barrett Jagdeo sitting and talking about democracy and talking about racism, when under his regime, there were thousands of people who were jobless. There were hundreds of mainly young Black men who were targeted and were murdered, viciously murdered. It is not to say that there weren't Indians who weren't murdered. Of course, I recall the situation with a Bacchus out at Skeldon, a young man that was, they claimed that he was a pirate. They murdered him along with his nephews. I attended that funeral. I attended the postmortem out there. Bacchus out in the quarantine, or was it Bacchus or Ali? There's so many folks who were murdered. And then there was another guy, another Bacchus, who was allegedly murdered back in 2001 or early 2002 at the Brick Dam police station. They claimed that he hung himself, but that wasn't true. The autopsy claimed otherwise. The autopsy with those guys out in Berbice who were murdered by Berbice anti-smuggling squad. I attended the funeral. I attended the postmortem, and those guys had some serious gunshots. And the little boy that was murdered, and there were Indian guys too, Indian Guyanese under the PPP regime. So scores of people, I'm saying, lost their lives because of Jagdeo's bad presidency. And this is a guy today attempting to behave as though he's an angel. You got to give me a break. And Mr. Walcott, you are correct. It was the assassination of a sitting minister. And here's what I never understood. Here is why I never understood. We have this one here, and we usually give them the little 5 minutes of fame. Ben Chap know it all. I could tell that he's drinking his bush rum. He's upset. He's probably drunk, and he's getting vexed. Ben Chap know it all. I could just imagine how he's doing his hand. Ben Chap know it all. It is the fact. It is. If you can counter, and that is what these folks can do. They can't counter what is being said. And so they get vexed and the bombs raise up and they start to do up their hand and all kind of things. But
anyway, Mark,
yeah,
I'm back. Sorry about that. I had to leave abruptly to take care of something, but I'm back. So you were about to ask a question about a political activist you were going to mention.
Yeah, Takuma Ogunze, and he basically is saying to the police, look, don't take political orders and go out in the army and go out and shoot and kill kill people who look like you. Stop taking these political orders. The regime got upset. They're now going after him. They issued a wanted bulletin. And obviously, and from your years of being a lawyer, if the police knows where a suspect or someone whom they consider a suspect in or for questioning or whatever, they would go by that individual's home to effect an arrest. And if that individual is not there, and they go again and that individual is not there, obviously that person is on the run. And if that person is on the run, then you issue a wanted bulletin. In this case, they never went to Mr. Ogunsi's home. They never went anywhere looking for Mr. Ogunsi. They just decided they're going to issue a wanted bulletin. And rightfully so, the guys in the WP are saying that this can very well harm Mr. Ogunsi, where they got some trigger-happy policemen who may want to kill him. Your take on what I just said with regards to Mr. Ogunsi's, part of Mr. Ogunsi's statement is urging members of the Guyana Police Force to be careful and not to take political orders. Your take, ma'am.
I mean, this is what I've been saying from the beginning of this show, that the police force, they're not working for the people, they're working for the Guyana government, and they're taking orders from those political leaders. So I'm really not surprised that if Mr. Ogunsi comes out and he says, you know, we should not, or the police force should not be taking shots at their own people. They shouldn't be hunting them down. They shouldn't be taking political orders to harm Black people. And we've been seeing over and over what brutality the police is, the actions, the brutal actions the police force in Guyana has been taking against Black folks. We've seen them evicted people wrongfully from their property. We've seen them take harsh measures against protesters, especially Black protesters. And we've been seeing that. So I do not see anything wrong that was said by Mr. Ogunsi, unless there's something that we're missing. If he's instructing them not to take orders from political leaders to harm their own people, I don't see anything prejudiced about that. I don't see it to be a statement to incite anyone to do wrong. But I see, if anything, it's a statement to encourage people not to do wrong, not to engage in wrongdoing against a political racial group. If anything, I see it as a statement to harmonize people, not to take adverse actions against their own people. I don't see anything there that would be inciting or pushing people to commit any violence of any sort or anything of the nature. And I don't see why should there be a wanted bulletin issued against a person for making a statement which is more helpful than harmful to the public. But you see, this is the nature of things in Guyana. You speak out against the Guyana government, they take action against you. They use the police force as a tool. They weaponize the police force against the masses, and it is wrong. We've been seeing this for decades, and yet Guyanese are sitting peacefully and allowing the government to take adverse action through the police. They're using the force as a weapon against people. And this is a political leader. If he makes a statement of this sort, I don't see why is there a wanted bulletin for him. I didn't see he committed any crime. I didn't see he incited anyone to commit violence or treason. So why is there a wanted bulletin against him when we have so many instances in Guyana where people are engaging in drugs, money laundering, all the sorts of illegal activities that are taking place in Guyana, illegal smuggling. There's so many instances where we see people are trying to smuggle illegal goods into Guyana without paying their taxes. And yet we're focusing on this one person who made a statement to harmonize Black people against together with Black folks. He's not saying, you guys should take adverse action against each other. You should fight the other race or anything of the sort. But he's trying to harmonize a racial group. Why is this even an issue for the police? Shame on Guyana police force. They need to go there and do actual work and not be wasting taxpayers' money to publish this nonsense. This shouldn't even be a wanted bulletin. I don't know. It's a waste of time. and it's false. It's spreading a false narrative. This is a false narrative. It's a pity we don't focus on lawsuits in Guyana, because what he should have done is file a lawsuit for defamation, because this is defamation. This is defamation. This is a false information being published to the public against him. You should file a defamation lawsuit against the Guyana Police Force, get an injunction against them. We use injunctions all the time in the courts in Guyana.
Absolutely. An injunction should have been filed for them to show cause why this wanted bulletin was issued. I don't know if that's the route that they will go in Guyana, but I thought of an injunction almost immediately just prior
to stop them, Mark.
To stop them from issuing and for them to show cause as to why. And not only that, question the legality of this wanted bulletin, whether proper procedures were followed with regards before issuing a bulletin. My understanding is that you issue a bulletin when you cannot find the suspect, when the suspect cannot be located. You made no effort to find the individual. And obviously now you issue a wanted bulletin. What's the reason? What's the primary cause? What evidence you may have? And so you are correct. An injunction should be filed. But before we get to that, I see you're shaking your head. This guy has Detective Bascom has made a heck of a lot of allegations. He was part of a murder probe. This guy was murdered at a notorious, a controversial night spot, so to speak, a stone throw away from State House where Irfaan Ali lives now. This guy, Fagundes, was murdered. This policeman, Bascom, Detective Bascom, said that the police force, including this guy, a senior police officer by the name of Caesar, that they are, and these are the allegations, that they are covering up the murder to protect this guy standing there with Irfaan Ali. That guy there is a guy who loves to run around and dash out a little money here and there. They just get a little money, so they're dashing it out here and there. That guy is Azruddin Mohammed. Azruddin Mohammed is seen there with the acting commissioner of police, by the way, who just got his MBA. People are smiling as to where he got it from, but that's not the issue anyways. Hikin is a bright boy now, you know. And anyways, so there you go. You see Azruddin, a murder suspect that they're not issuing. According to Detective Bascom, he is a murder suspect. They've held press conferences to protect this guy. A lot of police officers went by his business place to collect money and all manner of things. We saw the line or whatever gifts they were there to collect. We saw that there. They're not issuing a wanted bulletin for these guys. This is his security guy. But they're running around issuing wanted bulletins for people like Takuma Ogunzi. They're going around harassing people like Lincoln Lewis relatives. They're questioning about the whereabouts of Lincoln Lewis. All manner of things that they're doing. And something has got to happen, man. I don't know what, but something has got to happen. Again, I don't know what, but people need to stand up for their rights. They
need to wake up, Mark. They need to wake up. Even though the police force, they need to wake up.
Look at this here. They're not putting out a wanted bulletin for this criminal there with a gun, beating that businessman who went over to a company, I'm told is a jumbo jet security company connected to the PPP. Here it is, they're beating this guy with a big gun. No wanted bulletin for this guy, none whatsoever. And you see where Guyana is? Now, before you say anything else, as we're looking at the time, Miss Washington, I want you and our listeners to listen to this here and to show the hypocrisy and the evidence as to how and why they're actually targeting persons of African descent under this illegal PPP regime. And they're using certain members of the Guyana Police Force to carry out their dirty bidding. I want you guys to listen to this recording before we head back to Miss Washington and we prepare to wrap up tonight's program. Please, if you don't want to hear little curse words and these sort of things, close your ears. As we ceased broadcast on the ground. We ceased broadcast on the ground for this hearing. I want you guys to listen to this carefully No wanted bulletin is ever issued for this young man. This young man was more of a threat based on his words than what we can ever imagine Takuma Ogunsi has said. Listen to this young man, please.
Them all look like a fucking thief. And the fucking next thing is, police now against fucking police. Here's the next thing. The fucking police, them all look like a fucking thief. Yeah, black man that's like fucking jump houses. Yeah, fucking Matty black man, kill a Matty black man. Your mother's gonna get fucking sense. Eh? The fucking man down there in Ghana. Oh, mother's gonna the policeman. Yeah, I gotta look for. Kill the police out. No fucking cool the people do ya notice. Yeah, old Matty black man shoot a Matty black man. Your mother's gonna come from faces now, eh? Your mother's gonna dotage bad black man. And my mother's gonna get sent. Like I can never fucking go to school. I need to go fucking school. And your mother's gonna dotage bad. I never see fucking black man so yet. Burning fucking road, burning up fucking people vehicle. But hey, black people and pies and your mother's gonna out keep a party. And fucking make sure invite all your mother's gonna all the black man in this country. Who can get your mother's gonna fit and show pies in your fucking food and get you dead out of your mother's gone. After I kinda get no fucking sense, black man. Me said I am man known as fucking Gaza on TikTok. I kill all your mother's gone.
All right, just had to stop it there. Miss Washington, let's get your take on what you've just heard. No wanted bulletin, no arrest, no nothing. Nothing compared to what they're saying that Ogunsi has said. Nothing at all. He's talking about police. He's talking about police kill out Matty Blackman, let them do that. And your take, please.
If there's any statement that would incite racial division and violence, it would be in the statement that we just heard coming from that person's mouth, not the one that we heard from Takuma Ogunsi. What Takuma Ogunsi was saying is exactly, you heard what this person just said, that we are killing each other. The police is killing their own people.
That is exactly what Ogunsi said.
Exactly. And he was trying to warn black people, the police in particular, to stop killing black folks. They're killing us. And we are them. We are one and the same. And that's all that politician was trying to say. Stop killing your own people. And this is exactly what this person is saying. And it's evident. Everyone knows that the police brutalizes, kill their own people. So he's saying they don't have sense, but it's essentially the police force that doesn't have sense. The police force, if you want to say that, they're the ones who take orders and execute it against their own people. So, I mean, I'm not seeing, if anybody needed to be prosecuted and a wanted bulletin be issued, it would have been this same person that you just had there. We heard what he
and
said.
Lots of others. They got the likes of Victor Singh and all these other cronies of the PPP. The PPP is only targeting persons of African descent. Now, I just wish to play this one more time so that our folks can get the message. One more time, and hope Jagdeo is watching because he has nothing else to do. He watches these shows a lot. Hear what?
And the fucking next thing is, police now against fucking police. Here's the next thing. The fucking police, them all look like a fucking thief. Yeah, black man that's like fucking jump houses. Yeah, fucking Matty black man, kill a Matty black man. Your mother's gonna get fucking sense. Eh? The fucking man down there in Ghana. Oh, mother's gonna the policeman. Yeah, I gotta look for. Kill the police out. No fucking cool the people do ya notice. Yeah, old Matty black man shoot a Matty black man. Your mother's gonna get from fucking.
So it's disgusting to hear this nursery school dropout. But he later, after he realized that the pressure, they never arrested him. They never put no wanted bulletin. He's threatening police. He's saying go and do whatever to police, all manner of stuff, threatening to kill black folks, poison them out. And then a couple days after the pressure boiled down on him now, he comes and he says that he's mixed with black and all kind of excuses. Jim Cock bring around good story. But that's besides the point. They never went after him, the police that is, to arrest him and charge him. But look what they're doing to Takuma Ogunsi. Look what they're doing to Takuma Ogunsi And of course, they're now targeting Lincoln Lewis. This seemed to be a diabolical plot, a diabolical conspiracy. Here's what they want Takuma Gunsi for: offense, several serious offenses, and attempting to excite hostility or ill will on the ground of race. Contrary to section, wait a minute, excite hostility on the ground of race? Respond to that from a legal standpoint, Ms. Washington.
That is subject to interpretation. The words that were spoken by Mr. Ugunzi has to be offensive words and words that would rise to the level of the language in the statute. And I don't have a clip from what he said, but I was told, I heard what he said. And if he's just telling the police to stop killing their own people, I don't see anything there inciting. I don't see anything there that could cause racial division. I don't see anything rising to the level to be consistent with the language in the statute. However, from the person that you put on earlier, the Indian person who just spoke, I do believe there's sufficient amount being said there to rise to the level of an offense under the statute, but not what Mr. Ugunzi is saying. If he's trying to harmonize Black folks with Black folks, I don't see how he could be inciting racial division. He never said anything about any other race. He just said that Black police officers need to stop killing Black people. And that's exactly what that Indian person just said, that we are killing ourselves and that we are, in essence, he's saying Black people are stupid. And if anybody would fit that or should listen or pay attention, should be the police, because the police are the ones who are carrying out the orders. They're the one who are executing. They're the one who are brutalizing. They're the one who are following instructions blindly without even thinking. I mean, I've really never quite seen a police force like ours, to be honest. I haven't seen it in any other of the Caribbean countries. I lived in Trinidad. I haven't seen it there. I quite don't know how we could have a force that is quite the way. Very interesting. We have a very interested police force. They just follow orders blindly. They don't question it. They don't measure it up against the law. They don't try to say, well, this doesn't quite fit into the ambits of what the law says we should be doing. They just blindly post wanted bulletin, whatever they're instructed to do. They just follow their orders. Nobody seems to be questioning anything.
And then there's another one, another tape with the anti-Soki or Soki. Sorry. And then after they're caught, nobody went out and issued wanted bulletins to them. Nobody arrested them for racial hostility and all these. Nothing at all. Auntie Soki or Soki, whatever it is, she later said, "Mina racist," and come to find out she has a dog. And all these people are crazy, but wanted bulletins should have been issued for them, but we understand why. Wanted bulletins should have been issued for Jagdeo. Look at what Jagdeo said. Talking about incitement, listen to this, please, as we wrap up.
Right across Guyana, when the ministers of Granger or Nagamutu come here after the 21st of March, you say to them, walk behind them, chase them out, they're going to be illegal. Say to them, you're illegal. Free up the country, you're undemocratic. They're going to face a different situation right across the country.
When they come to the communities, whether it is in Berbice or Essequibo and Linden or in South Georgetown or Agricola or in Ennore or Port Morant, the people of Guyana should treat them as illegal. I said they should walk behind them, chase them out.
Walk behind them, chase them out. Just chase them out. That's dog whistle. We heard him the other day too, is saying that to fight. Come on. And then not only that, look at how Irfaan and the illegal Speaker of the National Assembly, look at how they behave, and others. So you saw exactly what his supporters did. They surrounded a minister, government minister's car, prevented a car from moving, almost killed, murdered that minister, her driver, and whoever else the occupants are. These people, I don't know, something is wrong with them. Please, your closing remarks as we look into Guyana, and we're not seeing a bright future under the PPP at all. At least I'm not. Your take.
You know, Mark, many, many years ago, I mean, I was still pretty young when Jagdeo went into office. I don't recall Jagdeo being what he is today. And I'm wondering if there's something in politics that causes people to become so corrupt.
Individual, not politics. Mandela was the president. We didn't see him behave like that. There are
That's very true.
tons of other presidents around the world that never behaved like how this quote unquote criminal Jagdeo is behaving. But continue.
That's very true. And you would think, Mark, that the people who get into power, they would go in with the intent of creating a democracy, of, creating an environment where people can express, there's freedom of speech, and there's no form of oppression. But in this time, in this day and age, 2023, we still have a society in Guyana where there's widespread oppression, where you still cannot speak your truth. You still cannot express your views freely, especially if your views are adverse to the Guyana government. And I think it's very unfortunate that our country is still in that sort of position. And I don't know whether or not there's going to be a change. I don't know whether or not there's going to be a president who's going to come up on the scene and stand for what is right. I don't know. And I think what Guyanese people have to understand and what they have to realize is that, changes would not come from you sitting down at home, from you not taking any steps to correct what is wrong. Changes can only come when you take steps to correct the wrong, when you try to right the wrong. At every stage in our society where there was freedom, where there was liberty, people had to fight for that. And I'm not saying fight physically. I'm just talking about peaceful protests. I'm talking about going to the court system, utilizing the system that is available to you. And that's one of the things that make this country, the United States, a democracy the way it is, a strong democracy, because the people utilize the tools that are available to them. They utilize the court system. They go and do peacefully protest in the streets. But you see, we have a problem in Guyana where the government is offended when you go and you protest peacefully. They want to stop you. They want to silence you. And the government need not do that. And this is why people got to start filing lawsuits against the Guyana government. If you want to protest peacefully, file lawsuits, get an injunction to prevent them from interfering with your right to express yourself in public, because you're not inciting violence, you're not engaged in any violence whatsoever. And then the other thing is Black people, Black folks need to understand what Mr. Gunzi was saying, and they need to work together with each other. You cannot sell your soul to the devil, because if Black folks are peacefully protesting, you cannot take bribe or get paid to go and cause disruption in that protest and then make it appear as if the people who are protesting are engaging in unlawful activities. You can't do that. You have to be able to have some sort of a unity among yourselves as Guyanese. So in closing, Mark, I just want to say, Guyanese people, we need to do better. We need to come together. We need to associate ourselves with each other. We need to fight alongside each other. And we need to continue to press for progress, for improvement. And, one day things has to change. It can't stay the same forever. There's different seasons. Just like the season changes, the same way the government of Guyana will change.
And it got to change as quickly as possible, as oftentimes, thank you so much. Tomorrow folks will be in front of the Guyana consulate in New York City, in Manhattan. Folks who are close by can stop by there around 9 or 10 o'clock and to be there just for about maybe a half hour to expose what is happening in Guyana. Lots and lots of things are happening in Guyana. And those of us who are in the diaspora, we can play a part by exercising our constitutional rights over here for freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, and all these matters. So if you're close by the Guyana consulate, there is a peaceful protest there tomorrow starting from 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And then there may be protest in Guyana as well tomorrow. We will carry that wherever there is a protest that pops up. We will carry that right here on 107.1 FM. Miss Washington, as always, we are thankful for your time here on Bench Up Radio, as we say, our in-house attorney. Those of you who wish to get in touch with Miss Washington, the number is there on the screen, 718-877, 3100. 718-877-3100. Her office is located in Brooklyn, New York, 55 Utica Avenue. Thank you so much, Ms. Washington, for the 5 minutes I promised you on the program.
Anyway, Mark, even though the 5 minutes turned out to maybe 50, but thank you again. It's always a pleasure to be here. I want to say thank you to all your supporters who are faithfully, coming, viewing your show every night, and they're sharing the link, guys. Continue to share the link. Continue to help Mark to get the message out to all Guyanese, what we need to do to keep our economy alive, to keep our country alive. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah. All right. So in just about, I know we thought that we were wrapping up, but let me try to get Dr. David Hines for about 5 minutes or so to give us a quick update. We will be joined by Dr. David Hines shortly. Sorry about that, guys. I know we said that we were going to wrap up, but we want to be able to at least get Dr. David Hines. So bear with us for a couple of minutes as we try to get Dr. David Hines. It's been a hectic day, and yes, in this struggle against an illegal regime, sometimes we've just got to put aside being tired. So I'll try to get Dr. David Hines just for a couple of minutes, but let me put back this guy on the screen so that you guys can hear exactly what he said. Nothing compared to what they're accusing Takuma Gunsi of saying. This is this guy. The police never did anything to him, no wanted bulletin or anything.
And the fucking next thing is, police now against fucking police. Here's the next thing. The fucking police, them all look like a fucking thief. Yeah, black man that's like fucking jump houses. Yeah, fucking Matty Black man, kill a Matty Black man. Your mother's gonna get fucking sense. Eh? The fucking man down there in Ghana. Oh, mother's gonna is the policeman. Yeah, I gotta look for. Kill the police out. No fucking could the people do ya notice ya old Matty Black man shoot a Matty Black man. A mother's gonna go from fucking racist now, eh? A mother's gonna dotage bad black man. And a mother's gonna get sense. Like I can never fucking go to school. I need to go fucking school.
I mean, it's painful to listen to this guy telling people that they should go to school. I don't know what he was smoking, but just it's painful just listening to him. Telling people to go to school. I don't go to school, I don't go to school, I go to school. It's painful. But what he said, several things about police, several things about harming police, about harming persons of African descent. You name it, he has said it all. But when you compare what he said to what they are alleging that Ogunsi has said, Ogunsi has said nothing close to what this little idiot has said. But the police never issued no wanted bulletin, nothing at all. But as long as you are a person of African descent and you say something that the illegal regime doesn't like, then they're going to hood those puppies in the Guyana police force against you. They're going to send those puppies in the Guyana police force, those political police puppies after you. We're seeing it here now. We're seeing it here now with Takuma Gunsi. We heard last night that they were asking around for Lincoln Lewis. And then we heard that they went to arrest Lincoln Lewis' relative. I don't know when, the question is, when will it stop? When will this come to an end? At some point in time, it will come to an end. And I think Jagdeo is panicking. Jagdeo is panicking, and I'll give you guys I'll give you guys as to why I say Jagdeo is panicking. I'll give you guys that example. You guys have seen it before, right? And he can use words like fight and all these different things. He can use those words. But listen to this here. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're trying to get that so that we can show you what Jagdeo, not allegedly. You guys can listen to him right here. Dr. David Hines is with us. I know he's probably had a busy day, but listen to Jagdeo and how he's behaving.
We did not do enough in 2015 to fight back against that narrative, and it led to our demise.
Fight back.
So today, when we fight the naysayers, many people think, oh, we're intolerant of criticism. We're not intolerant of criticism. We don't hate NGOs. We are just fighting.
All right, so fighting. So he's the only one could talk about fight. And as we have Dr. David Hines with us, I want Dr. David Hines just to remind him of this other stuff that was said, but there was no police. There was no police bulletin, wanted bulletin for this here at all, Dr. David Hines.
Yes, no police bulletin. Go ahead.
What? 1 second, please. Yeah. Thank you.
And the fucking next thing is, police now against fucking police. That is the next thing. The fucking police, them all look like a fucking thief. Yeah, black man just like fucking jump houses. Yeah, fucking Matty black man, kill a Matty black man. Your mother's gonna your fucking sense. The fucking man down there in Ghana. Oh, mother's gonna is the policeman. Yeah, gotta look for. Kill the police out. No fucking cool the people do yeah, not is yeah, old Matty black man shoot a Matty black man. Your mother's gonna from fucking racist now, Your mother's gonna dotage bad black man.
Dr. David Hines, good evening. How sickening is that statement? No police bulletin, no wanted, nothing. How sickening is that statement?
Very sickening, and I think the caption of your show tonight is Apartheid Guyana. I think I got a glimpse of that, and that's the apartheid that we are talking about. It seems as though people of one ethnic group can call the police anything, can degrade the police, can attack the police, can incite people against the police. Mr. Jagdeo himself talk about police kicking down the door. That is on record, kicking down people's door and all that kind of stuff. And no wanted bulletin for them. But once people on the other side, on the opposition side, people who are African Guyanese, say anything about the police, they are about to commit treason and they will be charged for sedition, racial hostility act. There is clearly a divide in terms of how the law under the PPP is treating with the citizens of Guyana, and that is apartheid.
Indeed, it's apartheid. We're seeing it every single day, and we're seeing more and more. Jagdeo is rushing out to talk about some hidden thing that they may have that we're not seeing. We're not seeing no unity. All we're seeing is racism, and they're targeting mainly persons of African descent and those others who do not support the PPP. This is sad. But let us touch quickly on Dr. Hines. I know you've been busy. You and I spoke earlier today after the bulletin was issued for Mr. Tukuma Ogunzi, and people are concerned about his safety, and rightly so. We are all concerned about his safety because one of the main thing is that they never went to Mr. Ogunzi to arrest him. Nothing at all. They just suddenly decided that they're going to issue a wanted bulletin, which is illegal. Talk about what's happening after, when you saw this bulletin. It's not like you were surprised.
No, we weren't surprised. We were waiting for it to come. We were waiting for him to be arrested, not a wanted bulletin. He spoke at 2 meetings since the Buxton meeting. He spoke in Victoria. He spoke in Ansgrove on Sunday night. He has been going about his business. On the bulletin, they have his address. If they wanted to arrest him, if he committed a crime and they wanted to arrest him, they could have gone and arrested him. That's how you do stuff. If the police feels that a crime is being committed, they can do 2 things. Use their own judgment and come with a charge and go and arrest the person once they know where the person is. Or you send the file to the DPP to advise whether a charge should be laid against the person. And if the DPP says yes, you go, you arrest the person. But instead of doing that, they put out a wanted bulletin. When you put out a wanted bulletin, it's for people who you don't know where they are. You're suggesting that these people are fugitives, that this person is a fugitive. And so what that means is the police can now go and look for the wanted person. And usually when the police go looking for wanted person, they're going to kill that person. Because you cannot arrest this person. You don't know where they live. You don't know where they are. And that person becomes a fugitive. And so in a sense, we have to be fearful for Brother Ogunse's life. Because this wanted bulletin is nasty, it's provocative, and it's political.
Nasty, provocative, political. I couldn't disagree with you at all there, Mr. Hines, Dr. Hines. I couldn't agree, with you more. Sorry. But this is painful to watch how persons of African descent are being treated in Guyana by this corrupt, this illegitimate, this murderous regime. But just to sit and watch the likes of a Jagdeo talk about racial harmony and all these manner of things, how does that make you feel, Dr. Hines?
You know, Mark, you've touched a nerve there. I'm a proud black man. You are a proud black man. And perhaps you more than me celebrate Indianness. I do, because I think Indians are an integral part of our Guyana, but we are proud black men. And to watch leaders treat blackness and black people in this way, it hurts. It hurts because you're asking yourself, is this what we have come to after coming here against our will and making the sacrifices that we have made? Is this what it has come down to? That at a time when there is plenty, more than we have ever had, when this time comes when we should sit around the table and say, how are we going to democratically share the dividends? How are we going to share this country? Is this what you're giving us? Bullets? You're giving us chains around our feet, around our hands? Is this what you think of us? That we are so stupid that you can throw a few dollars to us and get us to go take out pictures at Babu John? And if you can't do that, that you are going to murder us, demolish our homes? Is this what we have come to? As a proud black man, I refuse to accept that. I refuse. And I have to speak frontally. Look at that picture. Look at that beautiful black woman. That is what they're doing to her. And I have to say, I have to speak to black people and say to them, oh no, that's not what you are worth. And that's not what you should take. And resolve that we are going to turn it back. And we are not going to be cowed by threat of charges, threat of going to jail, and we put our tail between our legs and run. Oh no, we have to have leaders who will stand up and say, for God's sake, the dignity of these beautiful black people cannot be crushed in mud like that, cannot be taken for granted. Are we just worth going to Babu John? They put us all together. Look at those black people. They put them all together in one section. You all go over there. That's your all side.
I was made to understand, Dr. Hines, and we can see your passion and of course your hurt as to how folks of African descent are being treated. And this doesn't mean that other ethnic groups are not being treated badly, especially when they don't support the PPPC. But Black folks, persons of African descent, seem to be a direct target of this PPP illegal regime. I was going to make a point with regards to their treatment and how they gun down Black men who speak out against them. Courtney Crummy Wing, he went in front of Anil's office and protested, and a couple of months after he was assassinated. And then we have Ronald Waddle, political opponent. And if you don't speak what they want to hear, they jail you. They find all sorts of frivolous charges, whether treason, whether sedition, whatever it is. And we're seeing some same things being played out here. I don't know if many folks remember there's a Carol Wharton, a woman that was shackled as she went to court on a trumped-up treason charge. I don't know, Dr. Hines. I've been at it all day. And to be honest with you, I'm a little bit physically drained. Whatever you guys are having tomorrow, we carried your press conference, even though it was after. And you did say that you guys were having a press conference, but I got caught up as well. But we did carry it afterwards here. If you guys are having anything tomorrow, please don't leave us out. We want to carry it.
We're not going to leave us out. Tomorrow is going to be another long day.
Yeah.
And we're asking our people to stay tuned. And we've already told the media to stay tuned. It's going to be a long day tomorrow, and we're going to be at it. But one thing we can assure our people, we're not backing down from this. We're going to fight it to the bitter end. And we can only fight it with the people. And so we are saying to our people, in whatever way, fight back. I notice you're scrolling at the bottom of the screen there that there's going to be an event tomorrow in front of the Guyana Embassy in Manhattan. And I'm glad for that. I'm glad for that, because the message has to go to the four corners of the earth about what is happening in Guyana. So Absolutely. Yes, we welcome that protest tomorrow, and we're asking the media and our people to stay tuned tomorrow from very early in the morning as things develop.
And of course, the protest is going to be tomorrow, 10 o'clock, in front of the Guyana Embassy, the Guyana Consulate, in Manhattan. And we are hoping to have more protests like these at the Guyana Embassy in Washington, the High Commissioner's office in Canada, and the UK and other parts of the world where Guyanese are, whether in the Caribbean or wherever. We just can't sit down any longer, Dr. Hines.
No,
cannot sit down any longer. No. You know, this is painful. It's painful.
Mark Benchop, you know it better than most of us. You spent 5 years in custody for treason, something that you didn't commit. As a citizen, as citizens, we have every right to express our dissatisfaction with our government, including calling for that government to go. It's enshrined in the Constitution. It's enshrined in human rights covenants across the world. And now we can't do that. We cannot do that. You know more than others. This weaponizing of treason and sedition. Nobody charge anybody with treason and sedition in the world anymore.
Only the PPP. Only the PPP. And you are correct. I've experienced the treason charge against a trumped-up treason charge. I've experienced a trumped-up. A trumped-up. What is it? What's the charge again? Treason, and then what's the second? Treason is the highest charge.
I think
then sedition. I was also charged with sedition as well. I was also charged with a similar thing as, I forget that they charged me with sedition and put me on $1 million bail. trumped up sedition, trumped up treason charge, and then a kind of similar thing that I said on my show then, my TV show, when they were killing, the black clothes were out killing mainly persons of African descent. I asked hypothetically, what if the police were to turn their weapons and do the same to the Commissioner of Police, then Larry Lewis? I said, what if? And I also said, no, I'm not saying that they should do that. Lo and behold, incitement to commit murder, all manner of things. So I understand fully well, from the number one charge to the second to the all manner of charges. I understand it all too well. And this morning I was looking, a total of 123 charges in almost every police lockups across Guyana. But yet sometimes when I read some people saying that, Mark, why don't go back? You only staying from far and talk. I've been there and done that.
Yes.
So I understand what's happening now, Dr. Hines. But thanks for that reminder. It's been a...
Thank you, my brother. And we'll talk
tomorrow. We are with you. How is Takuma feeling?
I just came off the phone with him when you contacted me just now, and he's in very high spirits. You know, we talked party matters, and we'll see what happens from here on. But he's in very high spirits.
When you speak to him, give him my regards. We are with you guys 100%. We're not backing down. Whatever it is, we'll continue to expose this racist, this apartheid PPP regime. Dr. Hines, if there's anything that I haven't spoken to you or asked you about that you want our listeners to know, as much as I really do need some rest, I'll give you whatever time to speak in your closing remarks. Go ahead, sir.
I just want to tell our people to hold the line. Stay with us. Stay with us. This thing has to end. We cannot roll over and give up. This here, nothing is worse than this. This is akin to the Middle Passage. We're at the Middle Passage again. We're at that point. And I'm not exaggerating. These are things that I study, that I teach about, that I'm an activist against. And I've never seen Black people being treated in such undignified way in Guyana. I've not seen any people. I've not seen East Indians under the PBNC being treated in this way. This is the worst treatment any ethnic group has been visited with since the Middle Passage. It is as serious as that. It is as serious as that. And that is why on my program tonight, on behalf of the WPA, I issued a wanted bulletins for Irfaan Ali, for Bara Jagdeo, for Robson Ben, and for that loquacious one, Nanlal. And the wanted bulletin are for crimes against humanity, crimes against an ethnic group that didn't vote for you, crimes against the very constitution that governs this country and under which you took your oath. Human rights crimes. And we have issued a wanted bulletin for the four of them. And there's no statute of limitations with those wanted bulletins. We will try them in the public, in the court of public opinion. We will try them at the ballot boxes. Wherever they turn up, we will try them. And note I said, there's no statute of limitations.
We will chase them out.
That's what Jagdeo said.
He said it.
He said it. And you notice the coward today, Mark, last week he's telling the police, lock up Ogunse. You should have locked him up since the first day. Today when asked, he said, no, Ogunse is a non-entity. So why are you asking the police to lock up a non-entity? He's a coward.
For a non-entity like Jagdeo to address others as
non-entity.
When it was Anil Nandalal who said that he was a Chatri and Jagdeo, them are basically Katahar and non-entity. Dr. Hines.
The non-entity, he now realizes that the charge against this non-entity will have repercussions going forward, not only national, but international repercussions. He now is trying to disassociate himself. He's such a damn coward.
He is a coward indeed, a big coward, a big baby. I want to say so much more, Dr. Hines. And I feel comfortable addressing you as Dr. Hines because you have earned your PhD. I don't know why those media folks in Guyana address him as doctor. He's not a doctor. He doesn't have a doctorate. He has an honorary doctorate that maybe was paid for, but he's not a doctor. And folks who have honorary doctorates, you don't address them as doctor. I have an honorary doctorate from Camp Street. You don't see me using it. Dr. Hines, again, give my love and my regards to Kumagunsi. Tell him to be strong. I know he is. And we are with him.
Thank you very much, my brother. And
thank you, Dr. Hines.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Yeah. Dr. David Hines for you guys. We will be monitoring the situation with Tukuma Gunsi. And we also are monitoring the situation with veteran trade unionists, Lincoln Lewis and his family as well. But tomorrow, 10 o'clock in front of the Guyana Consulate in Manhattan, a protest to expose what is happening in Guyana, all of the racism and the injustices. 308 West 38th Street, between 8th and 9th Avenues. Walk with your placards and write something on it. Walk with your placards, write something on it. Now is the time to start standing up and fight back constitutionally. Nothing is wrong with that. Do not be afraid to stand up and exercise your constitutional rights. Freedom of speech and freedom to assemble. If one set can do it, then everyone can do it. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Same place, same time. We will carry that. However, even if it's 2 or 3 persons turn out tomorrow in front of the Guyana Consulate, we will carry it live right here. And then maybe if there are protests in Guyana as well tomorrow, we will carry it live right here, all day, all night, right here on 107.1 FM. God bless you guys. Have a great night. And let's do more than just praying for Guyana. Let's stand up for Guyana and take it back from these criminals. So long.
Basement level vibes with another one, straight up, blackness aye, who tell the truth, Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth, Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit, Mark Benskop, straight up from the root, Mark Benskop, who tell the truth, Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth, Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit, Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.